back to another video. Today we're going to take a look at the new comic books I picked up this week. New Comic Book Day, February 12th. But first, we'll talk about, I skipped last week because it was a pretty light week. But all I picked up last week was Absolute Superman number 4. Now, this is, again, written by Jason Aaron, art by Rafa Sandoval. And, where do I... So, the first thing it does is it does confirm that I am far more interested in the Krypton based events than I am with the Earth based events. And this issue is entirely set on Earth. It doesn't mean there's a bad story. It doesn't mean it's a bad comic. It's just personally what I, when you talk about the mythos of Superman, I found I've been having more fun seeing what they're doing with the Krypton elements. But there is an interesting story happening here. More of the most of the issue is primarily it's centered around Lois Lane, and it's her trying to get answers from as a soldier with Lazarus. She's suspecting that things aren't all as they seem, that she might be on the wrong side of things, and you see her interviewing some of the Peacemaker soldiers, trying to figure out why they fired on civilians, and she interviews a bunch of different civilians from various places across the world, and gets their interactions with Superman, and she's piecing things together to try to figure out what exactly is going on. And we see she talks to her father. He's introduced to, I don't think he's been introduced yet, but Sam Lane. There's an interesting backstory with him. You see a bit of Brainiac. Brainiac is interviewing a Peacemaker soldier who is filing his incident report, and the soldier is telling him one thing, that he meant to fire these civilians. He was angered by them. They felt like they were being laughed at, and Brainiac is kind of controlling the message for Lazarus. So you see that Lazarus is indeed built on lies, because Brainiac is controlling the message. And we're then introduced to a faction called the Omega Men. And there is a soldier within the Omega Men that is very familiar to the Superman mythos. He is introduced. I like that. I enjoyed that. I like that they're using characters in different ways. But you kind of see that this character and Lois Lane might be more in tune with their ideology than going up against Lazarus, because Lois Lane is questioning things for sure. So you see the instinctive reporter that Lois Lane is, and so you definitely see the characteristics of Lois, even though she's not in the role that we are familiar with seeing her in. And then the one critique, and I'm sure it's intentional, but it's the kind of the lack of Superman in this issue. He is there. He's used sparingly, and maybe that's the point. But I want to see more of Superman. And I still one critique that remains is I'm still not sold on the cape aspect of the character. It's like this kind of living dust that just kind of can go anywhere, that comes out of the suit. And I don't know. I just don't think it's visually as interesting that when every time there's action from Superman, it's kind of he's in this cloud of dust. I'm sure again that's part of the he uses it to kind of confuse whoever he's against, but that feels like more. It feels like it's being used as like a Batman smoke bomb effect, and I kind of want those characters to not have similar characteristics. So I don't know. Maybe that could just be me. Others might think that's really, really cool about the suit, but it's not quite landing with me. Still interested in the series. Just this issue not as interesting as the third issue. So I think the solicits for issue 5, it looks more like there's an exploding Krypton on the cover. So I'm looking forward to that one, just to see more of the Krypton story. So okay, so then moving into this week's comics, we'll start with The Moon is Following Us. So this is issue 6 from Danny Warren Johnson and Riley Rossmo. Picked up the Danny Warren Johnson cover as well as the Riley Rossmo cover. This kicks off the second arc of the story, and last issue ended with a big betrayal, and they're still Duncan and Sam, the parents of Penny, are in the dream world, but everything has changed. They're the status quo for where this story is, where it's going. The mission is still the same in trying to rescue Penny, but there are new allies that are introduced in this issue. And again, it's really hard to. I don't want to say the more details about the issue other than it makes absolute sense. I like where these new allies are coming from. I like the explanation to as why these allies are introduced into the story and their the purpose they serve. And again, it hits home when it talks about parents and kids and what parents do for their kids and the emotions that come out of that. And really loving this series, but it's going to be a great trade read. So I recommend people wait for it. I'm enjoying it month to month just because I like seeing the art. I like seeing what's happening. But when I revisit this, I'm going to love it even more. I can guarantee you that. So, all right, moving on. This is a random issue. I actually didn't even read it, but I'll tell you why. It's Kaya issue 25. Now, this is a series I actually picked up the first volume of the trade. Haven't read it yet. I read the first issue within the trade. I enjoyed it, and I bought this issue because I saw that there is a Jesse Lonergan backup story. No dialogue, all visual, very Jesse Lonergan, and I picked it up because of that reason. And I thought, eventually I after reading the first issue of the first volume of Kaya, I have a feeling I'm going to want to read the rest of this series. So, but I'll talk about that more. I'll talk about the premise and all that stuff once I read the first volume, and then I'll add it to one of the weekly videos. So let's move on to let's do a duo of Batman books. We'll start with Absolute Batman number 5, and this sees the return of Nick Dragotta, and written by Scott Snyder. This book continues to be really entertaining. I love that it's Batman from a different angle, but it's still Batman. There's still the core values of who the character is still present in this book. The third issue ended on the revelation that Batman has the opportunity to get his hands on a bunch of money, and the question was he gonna make the deal with the devil and get that money, or was he going to stay true to his principles? And this issue, it's Batman, so he stays true to his principles, and how he does that is really entertaining. And I have been really surprised at how much I enjoy this book. I kind of thought, it's going to be like another take on Batman, and a different take. Great visuals, and it is a different take on Batman, but I enjoy it, and then a lot of it has to do with Scott Snyder. The writing is there. He gets the character. It's good stuff. So if you're not reading it, I would definitely recommend it. I'm sure you could wait for it could be a trade type thing as well, but I think eventually it's going to be one of those kind of, you're like, oh yeah, if you like Batman, why don't you pick this up? It's pretty good. But I don't think it would be like the first Batman book that you give to somebody to read, but it's a fun Batman story for sure, because there's lots of Batman different takes on the character. This is another one, but it's a good one. Speaking of another good Batman series, there's Batman Dark Patterns number 3. Now this is the story is called We Are the Wounded Part 3, written by Dan Waters and art by Hayden Sherman. And I got to tell you, the art in this book continues to be damn good. I really enjoy this this art. I mean, Hayden Sherman is, I know. I read the first issue of Absolute Wonder Woman. I liked it. I liked the art, but the art from Sherman in this series, to me, is much better. It just lands more, and that could be because it's Batman, and I prefer Batman over Wonder Woman. There's more familiar elements that I like about Batman. It's Batman, early kind of Batman stuff, working with Gordon. There's lots of elements that I really enjoy about the character that are present here in this series, and it's just a good case that he's working. And so I guess. I didn't quite realize this before. I don't think I realized this before. But this is a series. I guess it's an ongoing series, or maybe it's a maxi series of 12 issues. I'm not entirely sure, but I feel like the first 3 issues was just this story. So this story wraps up in this issue, and that's cool. I think what the premise behind it, I believe it's going to be, it's Batman on a new case every couple issues, kind of like the what was it, the Legends of the Dark Knight series from the '90s, where it was an anthology type series. I don't know if the writer and artist are staying the same on each arc. I'm not sure if Sherman is on issue 4 you should look into that more, but this was really good. The villain they introduced in this series, you understand the motivations, and you find out the motivations for the villain in this issue, the Wound Man, and it's compelling stuff. And anytime you can kind of make a villain and give that villain an interesting backstory, that's intriguing, and that's good job. So yeah, I definitely recommend Batman Dark Patterns. If you're not reading it, you should check out at least the first three issues, and then we'll see where it goes from issue 4 and on. I haven't looked into it. So, all right. So we'll go to Spawn issue 361. So this is now it's written by Todd McFarlane again. Art Brett Booth, inks by Adelso Corona. Again, I've talked about how much I love the art. It has that '90s feel that I love. It's Brett Booth, who I enjoyed his art in the '90s, and then his art now is just elevated, but it still has that energetic feel to it. And McFarlane, he's doing McFarlane things, and the dialogue in this comic is not great. It is what it needs to be. It's not taking itself too seriously, but also it's like this grand story. So it feels like it is taking itself seriously, but the dialogue is not complex. Now that's not a knock on Todd. Todd clearly knows what he's doing, and it serves this story well because it just allows Brett to draw interesting stuff, and that's really for $2.99. That's all I want to see out of this comic. I want to see Brett Booth drawing interesting stuff. And I could just flip through it, not read the story, and still enjoy it. And I like that. Now, is that the best reason to buy a comic? No, it's not. I mean, it should be about the story. You should care about the story. I'm just such a fan of Booth's art that I don't care about Spawn. Not a knock on Spawn. I think Spawn is a very interesting character. It's just that things kind of go and how do I want to say this? So, issue 350, all the Spawn characters lost their power, and that's interesting. That's that you can kind of take it into a fun new direction. And then the person who was responsible for taking those powers away was Nyx, who's the new Queen of Hell. And in this issue, Nyx just basically undoes that and then just grants the powers back to all the Spawn characters, all the characters that are on heaven and hell that are on Earth. So they now have powers again. So it feels like, it spent 10 issues to kind of get back to the point where, oh yeah, they have powers again. And it didn't really feel like there was a lot of reasoning beyond that story-wise, except for, yeah, we want Spawn with powers again. And I'm glad Spawn has powers again because you get better art when Spawn has doing kind of crazy Spawn stuff. I'll continue picking it up because I really enjoy the art, but really it's more of like a flip book for me, just kind of looking at the pictures. All right, so here's another one from Image Comics that I picked up this week. It's a new issue 1. It's called Bug Wars, written by Jason Aaron, art by Mahmoud Asrar. And yeah, this, I just, it's a simple enough title. It's a number 1, and I was like, all right, let's do it. I love the cover. That just kind of grips you. Like that just looks interesting to me. As I was reading this comic, I was like, how am I going to explain what this is about? And then there's in the back of it, there's a letter written by Jason Aaron, and he's basically, it says, and naturally he sums up the best because he's a writer, but it's Honey, I Shrunk the Kids meets Game of Thrones. What? But that's true. So you start off, there's this battle between the bugs in the yard. This area is called the yard, and there's beetles versus ants, and there's this big kind of epic battle that's taking place. You have the beetles who are kind of just the warriors, the kind of ruthless soldiers, and then there's the ants who are like the basically they're on their anthill, and they seem more of like kind of like a Roman Empire kind of. They've got the stronghold, they've got the anthill, and it's like, it's like King of the Hill, but it's then the beetles versus the ants, and there's the threat of this oncoming great storm that's going to wipe out all of these soldiers. And I mean, I'm not gonna spoil it, because it's worth it. Read the story and experience that for yourself. But I think this is interesting. It's an interesting start. There's some great groundwork that is established. There some family dynamics in play, so love that stuff. And I like it. It's pretty intriguing. There's enough there in this issue 1 for me to buy issue 2 for sure, and that's the job of issue 1. And well done. The last issue I'll talk about, which I've already talked about a lot this week, Transformers issue 17, the Jenny Warren Johnson cover, as well as the Jorge Corona cover. Basically, just go watch if you're interested in what I really think about everything that goes on in this issue. Full spoilers. You can check out the video that I posted the other day, and but the brief recap of what's happening. It's still good. It's still a really good comic book, and there are juggling a lot of storylines. There's a lot of characters as the cast expands. Similarly to how Void Rivals is currently, where you get a couple pages for each storyline, then each issue, 1 or 2 of those storylines kind of get more within the story. Now, it's interesting because the 2 stories that are advertised on the covers, you get the Thundercracker story thread, and the Ultra Magnus story thread. They get the least amount in this comic. So, I personally wanted to see more of the Ultra Magnus storyline, but what you get in 4 pages alone, as a fan of Beachcomber, because Beachcomber is on a mission to try to find Ultra Magnus, the information you get in those 4 pages, it's great. You get more of Beachcomber's backstory. I personally, obviously, I love that. I think Thundercracker, the issue kicks off with Thundercracker going to find Skywarp, and that only gets 2 pages. And really, that could have been 1 page. And there's definitely more to that story. But the art alone, an issue or the second page, really. There's minimal dialogue on that page, and there could be even less dialogue on that page, because the emotions are there in the art. And I feel like the pacing continues to move forward. Every issue we get, all of the story threads are moving forward. It's just the amount of how it's divvied up, because issue 18 is the end of the 3rd arc, and then from there's only 6 more issues with Danny Warren Johnson behind the wheel as the writer for the series. So there's a lot of things that kind of need to, I don't need to, because it's an ongoing series, but a lot of things that I think are going to be wrapped up. So I'm gonna trust the process. I'm gonna, I feel like we get the story that we need to get each month, be it the story we want or the story that we're expecting. I'm gonna trust the process, and I feel like we will get more of that Ultra Magnus story that I really am craving, and the same as Thundercracker. And but there's a lot of great action beats in this issue. Great Optimus Prime moments. Just all throughout. Very satisfied with this series. So there's a look at what I picked up the past couple weeks. Some really good comics on shelves right now, and I've really been having fun checking all these out, and introducing to new things like Bug Wars. That's promising, and so go read comics. It's entertaining stuff. So anyway, thank you very much for watching this one, and I will see you soon.